that's why I think Giants fans should be excited about next year if they bring Jones back, is because if this team can win games right now with this roster, think of what they'll be able to do when they actually have cap space and resources next offseason that they didn't have this past offseason to build a contender. Because they had zero money in the offseason. They couldn't do anything with it, and they had so many holes on the roster, and they couldn't fix any of them.
They barely have any now. They barely got over the cap.
Is this
true?
Ben has breaking news that McCaffrey to the 49ers for picks.
Wow. All right. Very interesting.
Yes, it just alerted on Ben's phone that Christian McCaffrey is going to the 49ers for picks. What picks do they have? They gave them all up. I mean, Schaefer's reporting.
All right, yes. Ian Rappaport.
I thought he was...
Yep,
Rappaport tweeted it?
Yep, Rappaport tweeted 2 minutes ago. Panthers get a second-round pick, a third-rounder this upcoming draft. Wow, 2, 3, and 4 this year.
They're just throwing away their picks.
And a fifth next year. Wow. That's actually more value than I would have thought he would have gotten. Wow.
Good for him and good for the Panthers. Because
I think the
honestly,
Panthers got very good value with that.
Well,
they weren't getting, if they thought they were going to get multiple firsts for Christian McCaffrey, no way.
No, that wasn't going to happen. But I thought with a lot of the injuries he's had, I thought it might have been like a 2 and a 5. I didn't think it was going to be anything more than that.
That sucks for a lot of their running backs because Christian McCaffrey is going to be taking the tail end of that running game. So all the other guys that they have over there that have been running the ball pretty well are no longer going to be touching the ball. They also have what's his name again?
Elijah Mitchell.
Oh, he loses the number 1 carries. I mean, now you're moving him to 2.
He's going to be getting more like goal line carries at this point now.
If I was Elijah Mitchell, I wouldn't be happy with that. I mean, he's been injured really all season long. He's going to come back, and then he's going to have to deal
2 weeks. Yeah,
and he's going to have to deal with Christian McCaffrey now. So, I mean, the 49ers are trying to win now. I mean, obviously, now that their young quarterback's out and Jimmy Garoppolo, this could be the last year Jimmy is there. Yeah. So they're going to try to do everything they can to win. But let's say Jimmy wins this year with the 49ers. What are they going to do? Are they going to sign him? Are they going to decide to move Trey Lance as the Jordan Love of the 49ers? I mean, because you can't get rid of a quarterback that wins you. He's taking you to an NFC title game. He's taking you to a Super Bowl, and now he wins a Super Bowl for you, and he's still fairly young. Are you going to part ways with him? I wouldn't.
I have this conversation like every single week with my podcast co-host Robbie. Literally every single, because I'm like, I don't want to say I'm fully pro Jimmy Garoppolo, but I just didn't understand in the offseason why they were so quick to just name Trey Lance the starter day one. Like you were just, if Jimmy Garoppolo just wins one more game last year, there wouldn't have been a debate this offseason. He would have went to the Super Bowl, and even if he didn't win it, there wouldn't have been a debate as to who is the 49ers starting quarterback this year. So honestly, with Jimmy G, I think they just go back to the playoffs, and they, from there, it's anybody's game.
Of course.
Because I think Jimmy G works in that system. I think he's proven to work in that system. I think the only thing that has really set him back on a macro level is his inability to stay healthy. Right? But the 2 years in which he's been under center for the majority of the year, they went to the Super Bowl and they went to the NFC Championship.
He's a top 10 quarterback in this league. You cannot argue that when you've been to an NFC title game and you've been to a Super Bowl. You're a top 10 quarterback. Maybe his numbers don't show that. You don't need numbers to do that. Look at Zach Wilson. He's 3-0. Is his numbers just appear off the board? Josh Allen's did in his second year, and Josh Allen was still being considered not as an elite quarterback, but a good quarterback. Next year, you expect Zach Wilson to take two or three steps forward like you're seeing this year. Jimmy Garoppolo, he is what he is, but he's a winner. He wins. It doesn't matter if he throws 300 yards, 230 yards. He finds a way to win those games. So he's a born winner, and I think he's a top 10 quarterback in this league.
I don't know if I would agree if he's top 10 skill-wise, but I think when you have a quarterback, when you take system into consideration, I think that is a much better scenario, Jimmy Garoppolo and that system, than a lot of other teams are dealing with right now. Like, I take Jimmy Garoppolo and the Niners over a bunch of other teams, especially in that conference right now. I think they're just going to go back to the playoffs. I don't know if they'll win that division. I think the Rams are still going to win that division, and the 49ers get a wild card. But with Garoppolo, I trust them to get back to the playoffs more than I trusted them to get to the playoffs with Lance. Because Lance, with Garoppolo, it's not a high ceiling, obviously. That's why they wanted to move off of him. But it's a high floor. You know what you're going to get out of him, and you know that he knows his system, and you could trust him in the system because you have before, and it's gotten you as far as the Super Bowl.
You say it's not a high ceiling. If you have a chance to win the Super Bowl every single year with Jimmy Garoppolo, that's as high as the ceiling you need. I mean,
no, I'm saying he's not a high ceiling. Like his type of play is a high ceiling. Yeah. Like it's not like the do it all type of quarterback that say Josh Allen is or Lamar Jackson is.
I got it.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's the system could get you deep into the playoffs, but I think especially in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, especially in that NFC Championship last year, in those big moments he's got to step up more. I think that's what it may come down to.
I think what you're saying is more like they're more like the 2011 Giants, where they have a better defense than that, more talent than defense, but they're going to win with their defense and their wide receivers helping out Eli Manning in that case, because that was more the case that year. And also with the offensive line injuries San Francisco has too, very similar to that Giants team.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Now the Niners are more talented than that. But I
also think
I'm comparing the scenarios.
But I also think when you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, and you mentioned obviously Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, both guys never played in the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo did. So I understand when you say, well, he might not have the full end talent of those two guys. You don't need it as a professional football player. You just need a guy that's going to give you 250 yards a game or 200 yards a game, give you two touchdowns thrown, and your running backs could do all the other work, and your defense could keep it in the game, and you can win a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson, nobody thought when he came from Louisville that he was going to be anything good. And, yeah, he's gotten his team into the playoffs, except 1 year. And this year, it's kind of like back and forth what the Baltimore Ravens are. But what has he won? He's won one playoff game in his career in the playoffs. So no matter how talented he is when it comes to his legs and his capability of throwing hard ball passes down the field, he hasn't won. So elite status shows me. Tom Brady, when he came into the league, okay, he was a 6th-round draft pick. If you look at his body, you look at everything that he was as a player, he probably wouldn't be in the NFL right now if it wasn't for the Jets. I mean, the Jets knocked down Drew Bledsoe, which gave Tom Brady the opportunity to step on the field. Mo Lewis, I'll never forget it, made him step on the field, and it changed everything. It changed the whole outlook to the quarterback play. Now, if Drew Bledsoe never got hurt, and the Jets never hurt Drew Bledsoe in that game the way they did, maybe Tom Brady and that whole Brady and the GOAT thing never existed. So it just tells you how football, it's just crazy how things could happen every single year. In football, you know this, by the way, we are talking to Elite Sports New York Giants and NFL writer Ryan Honey. Ryan, you know this. Every single year, it could transition. Look at the Jets. The Jets were horrible last year. Everybody going into the season this year, the Jets had one of the hardest schedules in football, and everything has fallen right for them. They're playing quarterbacks that are, the second-string quarterbacks. Even though the teams are good, they're playing second. Everything's falling together. The Giants, they had an easy schedule like they do, and everything is falling together for them. So you just don't know it. And who knows? Look at the Bengals. They went to the Super Bowl last year, and this year they're 3-3, and Burrows is not anywhere close to the quarterback he was last year. So Justin Herbert, has he been as good as he was last year? No. Russell Wilson, is he the same quarterback he was when coming out from Seattle? No. Lamar Jackson, was he as good as he was last year? This year? No. I mean, we could go through the list of quarterbacks right now in the NFL. They're not having good seasons.
No. And Brady said it. Brady said it in a press conference. He goes, there's a lot of bad football right now. And he's right. There's so many. I'm pretty sure right now, I don't know the final score. I don't know if this game ended, the Thursday night game, but
42-34 Arizona.
Okay. But heading into tonight, 22 teams were either 500 or worse. Like, that's a bad start. When you have, I've said this to multiple people in the last week, the excitement level in college football is a lot higher than it's been than in the NFL this year. Just because there's a ton of bad football, there's a ton of bad quarterback play. And you're right, to the point where a Daniel Jones led offense 5-1, and a Zach Wilson is 3-0 since coming back from injury. Mm-hmm. Like you said, with the Jets are getting breaks when it comes to, they had to face Jacoby Brissett and against the Browns.
Thompson.
Then you got to, exactly. Then you got to face Trubisky, and the Jets are getting some breaks, but at the same time, I think the Jets are coming together offensively. Yes. I think that can't be overlooked. The whole Elijah Moore thing, I think he's just got to...
That'll cool down.
Yeah.
The Jets gave him a day. He's not getting traded. I don't know why he thinks that the Jets would just say, you know what, we're just going to trade you away.
Yeah.
They're not just going to throw him to the Wolves. I mean, this guy could be an elite wide receiver in this league. They're not just going to give him away. So they have a pretty good wide receiver right now sitting, without wearing a jersey, in Denzel Mims. And to me, it really busts my bubble. You have a talented player like that you drafted a couple of years ago in the second round, and he's not playing. So trade him if he's not playing. So get something for him. You might not get a lot back for him, but at least get a fourth or fifth, because at the end of this year, he's a free agent, and you're going to lose him to free agency.
And it's like, with the whole Elijah Moore thing, it's like, you got to understand, he's a young kid. He's upset right now. I mean, but it was one game where he didn't have any targets. Like, that happens in every receiver's career. You're going to have a game where it's like you're not really a factor at all.
Right.
In this 3-game stretch, he's gotten targets this year. It's not like he's Denzel Mims and he hasn't played a snap all of a sudden in year 2. So I think they got to give him a couple days to calm down. I don't know if he's going to be a healthy scratch this Sunday. I don't know if that teaches him a lesson or not.
He'll play. But they'll have him play.
I think I leaned more towards, like, I don't know if they would just wipe him out of the game plan just because of this one thing. I think they'll just give him the day to calm down or whatever it is. But the whole, as far as the Jets offense is concerned, I think we can't overlook their pieces coming together. I think Breece Hall is pretty much established himself as a lead dog in that backfield and maybe a potential Pro Bowler at the end of this year. I think Garrett Wilson is coming together.
Just remember, he's only touching the ball like 15, 20 times, and he's getting 100 yards. It's pretty remarkable. It really is
mark of efficiency.
It's crazy.
He's a great. I could have very much criticized Joe Douglas. We all could, for trading up in the second round to draft a running back.
Traded with the Giants, by the way.
Right. Yes.
Meanwhile, we draft a receiver that can stay healthy. Thank you.
Joe Shane traded back twice. We never saw that during the Gettleman era, except for the Kadarius Toney pick, and then Shane trades back.
That didn't work out well either. The Giants missed Devontae Smith by a pick, and they could have drafted Rashawn Slater. They could have drafted the kid I wanted at 20. Once they traded back was the Cleveland linebacker Owusu. That would have been nice.
They could have drafted Breece Hall. They could have drafted Breece Hall. I mean,
right.
I'm just saying. I mean, they traded. How many times could you remember that the Giants helped the Jets get a player that they wanted? So the Jets traded him Leonard Williams. Thank God, because I hated Leonard Williams. So. I mean, he's been decent.
Yeah,
for the
now
Giants.
we're stuck with his money. Him and freaking Kenny Galladay robbing everything.
He makes his difference in the run defense game, but I think he's one of those guys where he might not be on the team next year just because of the financials.
Plus, they're going to pay Lawrence too. So.
Yeah, some of the contracts Gettleman left them with are like the Galladay one they can't get out of until next offseason. There's no maneuver they could make from now until next offseason that benefits them in any single way. Because the cap hit is just too much. And Leonard Williams is one of those contracts where they're going to have to get rid of him or at least maybe extend him and spread out the cap, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I was not a fan of that move when it was made 3 years ago when Leonard Williams came over.
Time because
it was a weird move. Yeah, like the Giants were being buyers at the deadline when I forget what their record was, but I can't imagine
the Jets. I think that year were like because they had that like hot streak right in the middle of the season where it seemed like okay they might be able to contend. And they had like purged a lot of their other bad contracts outside of Tremaine Johnson, which I don't think they get rid of. So like they could have given Leonard Williams maybe not that kind of money, but a little bit less than that, and kept him at the time because that was Quinnen Williams' rookie year, and they didn't really have much else on the defense. So it seemed weird that they traded him, and it also seemed weird that the Giants were the team that took him in for that price.